Billy, Lee, Matt, Nick, Chris, other Chris, Craig. You guys were the only ones who bothered to send in your absentee rankings when I asked. Nobody else cared enough. Not even Julian, and he runs Kiss FAQ. No one else cared about this ranking, and yet we didn't count your votes. We failed democracy. We need to fix this. We need to...
Well, hey, next up on the list, because I think Steve is still with us, so
yes,
trying to take advantage of that. Next up, we've got Dress to Kill. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I ranked this one pretty well in the middle. There weren't any songs that really stuck out to me as like the best song ever. Rock and Roll All Night it's pretty good, but it's also probably a little bit overrated. Room Service is kind of fun, even though it's like really goofy, but it's a well put together song. And oh yeah, so I bumped Anything for My Baby from the bottom of my ranking to one of the sort of medium high points of the album, just because I remembered how it went, despite having listened to it once like 2 years ago. So I was like, all right, I guess that's not a bad song then. But there was also a lot of generic bluesy songs that is not my bag, so I put it, midway through the things.
You remembered how it goes because it's Rock and Roll All Night with different music parts over the top of the drum beat.
I remember how it goes mostly because the lyrics end up flowing together in such a silly way.
Yeah, it's a great track.
Yeah, I would say this is I feel like a lot of these songs have a vibe sort of similar to Unmasked. And I think if Unmasked had this kind of production, I would look at Unmasked much more favorably. But maybe some of the writing on Unmasked is better than Dress to Kill, but the production is better, and therefore that's why and some of the attitude is better, so maybe that's why this album works more for me. But I mean, it's classic Kiss. It's one of the first three albums, and it's the first of the three albums that actually sounds good. So even though, anyway, it's the first of the three albums that actually sounds good. Great songs. I think that Paul really shines in this album. Getaway, great track, sung by Peter. I think that Neil Bogart really helped define the Kiss sound with this album. And they really, they had variations on it for the next couple records, but this was, I think, the first one where the band really came into their own sonically. Lots of great songs. Completely works for me. So yeah, Dress to Kill, thumbs up. Only real flaw is that Rock and Roll Night doesn't have the awesome guitar solo that Alive has. Victor, you ranked this. You gave this 11 points, so more towards the middle. What are your thoughts on this one?
I would disagree. I think for me, it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds a little limp to me. Like I think they end up rocking harder later, and maybe that's not something I should hold against this album.
Rocking Harder Later sounds like a pretty great Kiss song.
Right. Well, I'm saying that they have. This is like the first album where like it sounds recognizably like Kiss's sonic production. But it's maybe Sonic? It's Sonic, yes. But it's a weaker version of, let's say, Rock and Roll Over's production. So it's not as good, but it's like, oh, this is what you finally figured out what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, I get that, and I think a lot of the songs just don't really grab me. Like I remember the first time I listened through the album, I got to Rock and Roll All Night, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess this did just have to be on an album at some point, and here it is, on the end of this one. I like a lot of the songs don't grab me, and the ones that do are the Wicked Lester songs, which is maybe a little insulting because that was a while ago. It was the 70s, so you put out an album relatively quickly. But like the songs on this album don't grab me. Like I think even Hotter Than Hell and Kiss 1, I think both have actually better written songs on them. And I will take that over slightly cleaner, more well put together production. But also, I don't even like the production of this.
Honestly, that's a really fair assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even mad. I'm like, yeah, that is a completely fair assessment of this album. But on the other
I will
side of the
say I did listen to your reaction video on it, and I moved it up after that, and then I listened to it again. Yeah, but
thanks for subbing to my Patreon, buddy.
Yeah, of course. Someday I'll listen to your reaction of Monster, but the world's a little too stressful right now for something that horrible.
You're going to check out
happen
the Alice Cooper one first. Like, I can do Alice Cooper Goes to Hell, but I'm not ready for Monster yet.
Yeah.
So, Gavin, you gave this 22 points. So Victor gave it 11. You gave it 22. Why is Victor so wrong about Dress to Kill?
Because it wasn't his favorite Kiss album when he was 8 years old. That's why. It's
That's true. Nostalgia is objective truth about quality of art.
It's my second favorite of the first three albums. It is the second album they did that sounded remotely good. It is Room Service is fucking great. That's a great song. One of my favorite Paul Stanley kind of fun kind of romps. Not Ladies Room, Ladies in Waiting is a great tune that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah, that's actually no, that's not really a great tune. I
got your back, Gavin. Great song.
Thank you, Mike.
You're selling me on Victor's take of the material not being as good because I was like, yeah, man, anything for my baby and Love Her All I Can.
Yeah.
These are great songs. Like, oh right, Ladies in Waiting is on this album right after
Ladies in Waiting.
I mean, I agree. It's not Come On and Love Me level, but
Come On and Love Me is on this album. That's great. You know what?
That's a great song too. Rock Bottom.
The intro is way too long and doesn't have enough dynamic contrast to remain interesting.
I think Rock Bottom worked
great.
better later in the album for me. I like the idea of
better
that.
on a live, but I don't think there's a single song on any of these albums that wasn't better on a live. Out of those that were on a live, you know what I mean?
Strutter, I think, is better in the studio, the original studio version. Yeah.
Why?
I think that really works.
What happened to you to form this opinion?
We don't need to get into that.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that right now. Anyway, sorry, Gavin, continue.
But no, this is a great, solid, sturdy, well-built, strong foundationed, weatherproof.
It is weatherproof, yeah.
Rock album. It's you can obviously the Rock and Roll All Night, of course, as overplayed as it is, and yada yada. Real Kiss fan can live the rest of their life without hearing it. Blah blah blah. But you can hear that band having a great time recording it. Like you hear them having a lot of fun in this album. I feel. She is an amazing song. There's just a lot of great songs, and you can hear them. They're playing well. It's the second good album they made, and I put it at number 4, 2 below Hotter Than Hell.
I would say it's the third good album they made.
But the thing with that, we haven't got to that album yet. I'll give my opinions on the first album.
It's a little mystery of what album you're even talking about.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. No, yeah.
So I think let's go with Mike next. What are your thoughts on Dress to Kill? And then we'll close out with Jamie.
Sure. I love Dress to Kill. I agree with most of what has been said in terms of I think it's a good sounding album. And then also to go along with what Victor said, where he thinks it sounds a little weak, I will agree it's not a hard rock, crunchy, bombastic album, but it's more of that 70s sound. And I think Dress to Kill, for me, and Rock and Roll Over are like the two most 70s-esque Kiss albums, at least in terms of studio albums. For me, if I had to be like, this to me is what I hear and what Kiss is to me, it would be Dress to Kill and Rock and Roll Over. In terms of the overall sound and the songwriting, I remember many years ago reading on a Kiss message board, someone was speaking negatively about Dress to Kill by comparing it. They said it almost was like a Beach Boys album, and then they meant it in a negative way. But I kind of understood what they meant. And for me, it was a positive because there's those upbeat elements, but to me, it has a little bit of more of that Kiss edge.
Mhm.
Maybe in a way, there's almost like that Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin element to it.
I understood that reference.
Yeah, I
know
was
Greg also
I was like
did.
Greg at least will, maybe Jamie. I just love
Me.
I love everything about it. I agree. Obviously, it would be even cooler if you had the solo on Rock and Roll All Night. I'll mention one thing, and then I'll mention a really weird thing that I probably shouldn't even be admitting to any other human for the rest of my life.
Oh, do it.
Ooh.
But the first thing is, I remember that we were at a friend's backyard party in like college-ish era, and somehow it came up. I was like, I'm so good with my Kiss songs. I bet you I could name any Kiss song within like the first 5 seconds. And someone was like, no way, it's too good. Well, so my cousin starts. I think my friend had a bunch of them on his iPod. My cousin starts randomly playing them. Not only was I getting them in the first 5 seconds, I was like literally getting them probably before a first full second. I mean, first guitar hit, first drum hit, just like first just millisecond of sound. I'm not even trying to brag, but this just was really happening. I was like, oh yeah, it's All Night. Oh yeah, that's Exciter. Oh yeah, that's Room Service, whatever. And all of a sudden, the reason I'm mentioning this is Jamie made me think of it. All of a sudden, he plays one and it's like boom, and I'm like, it's either, and my cousin Brian was like, yeah, this one's really not fair, and I was like, yeah, because it's either Anything for My Baby or Rock and Roll All Night, and I took a guess and I was wrong, but so that's the one that tripped me up. That's how similar those little drum intros are. As for the really weird thing,
Yes.
so I first knew Room Service from the You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best live compilation.
Same.
So we had that early. My cousin Brian and I, when we were first new to Kiss and everything, we would be listening to it. I remember loving the song, thinking it was great. At this point in my life, I really don't think I'm almost positive I had not ever seen any porn yet or anything like that. And yet somehow in my head, I genuinely believed. I thought when Paul was singing in Room Service, "Baby, I Could Use a Meal," I thought he wanted to. I thought it was like a lactation fetish. I seriously thought he wanted to I thought he wanted to suck on I thought he wanted to suck the milk out of some chick's breasts. Like I really thought this, and the reason I say this is so weird is because that is like a niche genre of porn. But I wasn't even aware of that at the time. I was just like a 12-year-old kid.
I wasn't aware of it now.
Yeah, I'm aware of it now, but
I wasn't aware of it.
How?
Like, until
How
just
was you not
now.
aware of it?
Oh, okay, yeah. Now you know.
I mean,
But Greg, if it
makes sense.
exists,
Don't get me wrong.
there's porn of it.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, as you explained to me, like, yes, it makes sense that it exists, but I'd never thought of it or come across it.
But I thought,
Or come across it.
I thought he was actually saying like, "Yeah, baby, I could use a meal of your breast milk." And I remember telling Brian this, and he was 2 years younger than me, and I remember him just being like, "Dude, no, he's just saying like he could use a meal, like like a meal of good sex. Like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean?" And I just remember being like, "Oh, like this is so awkward because like I'm the older cousin and I'm supposed to be right about all of these things." So
And
yeah, I don't
You're
know
the
how I
older
went
cousin.
there, but
You're the one who's supposed to have teach your younger cousins weird, incoherent, and wrong
Right,
things about
right.
sex, right?
exactly. So
And you
I always thought it was I could use a little, like little. Baby, I could use a little room, sir. Is it meal? Is it actually meal?
It's meal.
it's got to be meal.
Oh, wow. I always thought it was little.
And that's one of the most relatable things I've ever heard on a Kiss album.
When you can, right?
I also could use a meal
Yeah,
most of the time.
and do what you feel. I'll
Yeah.
take the breast milk from your...
Honestly,
I
they were
can't say
probably literally writing about room service when they wrote the song. They're like,
Yeah,
just spent
right,
so much
yeah.
time hanging out in hotel rooms. Like, let's order some food. And at some point, they're like, let's just write a song about that.
Well,
and then
no,
they were
I-
like, oh shit, we have to put in sex metaphors or our fans won't like it.
I do believe Paul said this is about a time that he did bang a hotel worker.
I mean, right
I
about
think-
what you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. I saw you in the lobby getting ice.
Ice.
The only hotel that'll let us stay.
So, Jamie, what are your thoughts on Dress to Kill?
I mean, I think there are two people in this chat that are denying very heavily that they've ever seen, lactating porn. It's the amount that people are denying ever knowing of its existence raises suspicions that I'll be investigating
I'll
after
let
this
you know.
podcast.
I really hadn't heard. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah,
There's also a
I'm
non-porn
surprised.
version of
I'm
it if you just like
surprised.
want to get into like niche agriculture.
yeah.
You've never just stumbled across it, just clicked on a video, and then all of a sudden there's like milk,
There it
and then
is.
it's bad, and oh god, and then you
It's never happened to me.
wow, dude.
I know.
Well, you got to
Protests.
remember, Greg has been married for like since he was 15, so he
Right.
has never looked at porn. So
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
My thoughts on Dress to Kill. It's the worst album prior to 1979.
Wow.
That's my opinion. It's the album that I listened to least pre-79 Kiss. It sounds exactly like the album that it is, which is that the first album flopped, so they were forced to go back in the studio. And then the second album flopped, so they were forced to go back in the studio. So, it's a very short album, and there's loads and loads and loads of just kind of like fat built into the album, like the start of Rock Bottom, which lasts for 2.5 minutes, and then the song Rock Bottom lasts for 2 minutes. Once you get to kind of like the riff, and you've got songs where there are 4 choruses pegged onto the end, and there are some incredible tracks on there. Rock and Roll All Night's on there, Come On and Love Me's on there, but like, it's the barrel scraper of the pre-79, in my opinion. Every song on that album sounds better. Every song on that album sounds better on a live, like most of the songs from the first 3 albums. And Greg mentioned earlier, and a couple of you have, like, to hear Rock and Roll All Night without the guitar solo is strange, because the version of Rock and Roll All Night that we're probably all most familiar with is the live version from Alive. But yeah, I mean, it's still a great album, because as far as I'm concerned, they're all great albums, but pre-79, it's the weakest for me.
That's a very fair assessment, and
I'm just really
a very fair critique.
I'm just really confused now because he's saying pre-79, so I thought that Jamie was a big Dynasty fan. So now I'm really curious where all of this is going, but that's kind of unrelated.
No, okay, pre-8. Well, hang on, wait there. Well, Dynasty came out in 79, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm including that when I say that. So like all the albums 1979 and before. So, original lineup albums, as far as I'm concerned, Dress to Kill is the worst of the bunch. To worst, that's the wrong word. I think it's the weakest.
Least best.
Yeah.
Least best. I think between Kiss and Dynasty, it's the least best album.
Well, and let's face it, Dynasty did come out in 79, but it was still Kiss's 1978.
Yeah.
Like, spiritually, Dynasty is part of 1978.
I think we all remember 1978, and we all feel like Dynasty was there.
Exactly.
Right.
Spiritually.
Big time.
Yeah.
This is amusing
I
because
was hoping that joke would get more laughs.
I feel like we spent a lot of time on Unmasked being like, haha, this is really high, but the album's good. And then we move one space above and we're like, this album's really good, but actually it's not that great.
Yeah, you're not incorrect about that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Victor, there are certain things that you just have to do as a Kiss fan. Chances that you have to defend. It's a weird line to walk.
Yeah, just like, I know that Unmasked is better than Dress to Kill, but I have to say Dress to Kill is better.
Yeah, because I don't want people to just show up on the internet and beat me up. With, like, I don't want Tommy Summers to hit me in the face with a crowbar or you know, or
Or
Dr.
another
Funk,
object. Yeah.
or Dr.
I mean,
Funk to show up and hit me with the crowbar.
at the end of the day, I would take Dress to Kill over Unmasked, but there are many, many times when I'm going to be way more in the mood for Unmasked. So, for whatever that's worth.
The main difference for me is like Unmasked has Torpedo Girl on it,
It does.
It's true.
which is honestly like most of the albums in their catalog have one fatal flaw, which is a severe lack of Torpedo Girl.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that Unmasked definitely has going for it, it's the fact that Torpedo Girl is a song on it.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. These are facts that can't be denied.
I kind of now want to figure out where Torpedo Girl would go in the sequencing of The Elder and every other Kiss album. But like,
Well, Torpedo, that's obviously a character that he meets when he's sailing.
yeah, and it's Torpedo Girl that rescues the boy from Mr. Blackwell, and then they escape the island
Yeah,
together.
Obviously.
So that means that you have to put Torpedo Girl between
Shark
Mr.
Boy
Blackwell
and Tornado Girl. And Tornado.
Torpedo Girl.
Tornado Girl. She's just like a much cooler version.
Turbinado Girl.
Turbinado.
All we're doing here is reminding Mike that albums that he doesn't think are that great are ranking much higher than albums that he thinks are amazing.
Well, it's funny you say that because on that note, I was just realizing that we've now positioned 3 of the first 6 Kiss albums, and yet, I guess because it is truly random, we have not discussed a Kiss album from 1981 yet. So that is interesting to me.
There is another album that we haven't talked about yet that I am growing in anger that we have not talked about yet.
I know which one that is.
And I am shocked. And
we'll have. But yeah, that one you're going to be angry at.
you are kidding.
Mike's going to be angry, and the thing is, that's not.
Oh, wait, I'm going to be angry, and Gavin's going to be angry?
So you're both going to be angry, but neither one of those is even the next one up.
Because I thought maybe Gavin was going to be...
I mean,
Mike,
Gavin's going to be angry about something unexpected coming up. Mike, you know what you're about to be angry about.
Mike, you've been preparing for this before. Like, as soon as we were all asked to do this podcast, Mike, you should have known that you were going to be pissed off that the album that is going to piss you off is going to be so much higher than it really should be on any list.
I'm so confused right now because I don't know if we're talking about Kiss's best album or one of Kiss's worst albums right now.
Well, I'm talking about one of their worst, and you're talking about one of their best.
I'm so confused. Yeah. So, are we talking about an awesome album ranked too low or one of their weakest albums ranked too high? Like what is
You're both doing that. That's why it's great. And the thing is, neither one of you is going to have that satisfaction with the next album in the ranking.
Okay, see, here's why I'm mad because Bear Frog, you told me that I was going to like the higher rankings. So what is going on here?
You'll see. You'll see.
I do not know how to feel about life right now. I didn't even know we were recording today.
No one's going to be mad at the top 3. Well, actually, no. I'll be mad at the top 3. Nobody who counts will be mad at the top 3.
I fully expect my number 1 album to be the number 1 album of the ranking, and that's not controversial.
Ooh, spoiler alert, I'm the only one who got it right, suckers.
Whoa.
If I'm reading the room rightly, if I understand the beef that's kind of going on at the minute, and I don't know what the albums that Gavin hates.
I think I know
but I do know the album that Mike's loves. Now, if Gavin hates an album where a certain member of the band has some erotic underwear and copious amounts of chest cubes, then I'm looking forward to that bit.
All right, next on the list we've got the Ace Frehley 1978 solo album.
The blandest of the solo albums.
This is the worst ranking ever. I'm hanging up immediately.
See, no, I'm actually trying to understand where Steve is coming from with that, and he calls it the blandest of the solo albums. I mean, in the sense, Paul's is more diverse than Ace's album, and Peter's and Gene's certainly have a more varied style. So you could say they have more unique flavors, but those flavors just might really not be appealing to some people. So they might be like, whoa, that's a bold taste, but I simply don't care for it. Whereas then by default, Aces would technically be the blandest because it just consistently rocks great. So if that's what Steve meant, I guess he's not insane.
I mean it more or less in the sense that like Ace Frehley's solo album sounds the most like a Kiss cover band. Like if you were to take a cover band in 1978 and say like make a Kiss sounding album, they would have turned out something that was like the Ace Frehley solo album. Whereas
it would be Jigoku Retsuden.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, that's if you do it in 2008.
I mean, I think in terms of Sonics, it's the one that sounds the most like it's the one that sounds most like a Kiss album in terms of the guitar tone and general production. So it does. I think it's the most Kiss sounding album, and has maybe the strongest songwriting out of all the albums. Even though I prefer the Peter one, I think this is the strongest writing out of the 4 albums. I think he knocked this one out of the park with great performances. New York Groove was the only hit out of the 78 solo albums. And when I was younger, this was my favorite of the solo albums. But then I became an old man, so now I prefer the Peter Criss 78 album. But back when I was young, full of piss and vinegar, this album was great, and it's still great.
Back when you were young and you were like, yeah, oatmeal is the best flavor. I don't like this spicy kimchi that Peter Criss gave me.
No, here's what it is. If we're saying these are different flavors, let's say these are ice cream. So like maybe Peter Criss is like pistachio because green or whatever.
Or kimchi.
But I'm saying like Ace Frehley's is chocolate, where it's not a special flavor of chocolate. It's just your standard chocolate. But man, chocolate's pretty great. Everyone likes chocolate. It's hard to argue against chocolate. It's good chocolate. It's not quite vanilla. It's not quite that bland. I think it's solid chocolate. You might want to try, the caramel mocha flavor or experiment and get, the weird boutique flavors. But
or the adult
chocolate
contemporary flavor.
Right, or the adult contemporary flavor. But like chocolate's still great.
It's like a regular Kiss album would be like Dutch chocolate or dark chocolate ice cream, and then Peter Criss's album is just chocolate, Hy-Vee brand chocolate ice cream in the big old 5-quart bucket.
This is Ace Frehley's album we're talking about.
Sorry, did I say the wrong name?
Yes, you did.
I tend to get them confused. I don't know.
Wait, who did he say? I didn't even catch.
Yeah, I missed it.
He said Peter.
Yes.
All people in corpse paint look the same to me.
Racism.
Here's the thing. This album is one of the most. This album might be the most densely packed with young dumbfuck energy I've ever heard.
Ah.
There you go. Yeah.
Sounds like a good album. Yeah.
Like, it's really, really stupid. There's a lot of really stupid things that happen on this album, and it's all pretty awesome.
It's so sad. I'm not glad to be with you today.
Yeah.
That is a line in the first song, but it's also one of the hardest fucking rockin' songs ever. Like, I shit you not when I put this as my 6th favorite Kiss album, but it's like probably just one of my favorite rock and roll albums ever is the Ace Frehley 78 solo album.
I mean, it's a phenomenal record. I mean, like Rip It Out is just a kick-ass, stone cold classic. Speeding Back to My Baby, just phenomenal riffing in that. We mentioned New York Groove, Snowblind, another great song. What's on Your mind? Like this,
Ozone,
really, and Ozone is on this album too.
Oh, great! You got
weird.
Me. You are not going to talk shit on Ozone today.
I like Ozone, but all the other songs he mentioned are better. Just to be fair.
That's why I mentioned them in that order. Because there's stuff on there that's still enjoyable, but there's just a lot of stone cold classics on this album, and it's really hard to argue against it.
Well, maybe you just got to be the kind of guy who likes getting high and dry, and you think you're gonna try.
Yeah, have you ever?
Oh man, I haven't listened to this album for a while. It is so good. I'm getting all these flashbacks.
I like punctuating it with the pull on the vape pen, Gavin.
Oh yeah. I need to blow some ozone at you.
Oh, that's definitely not good for you. Getting high on ozone. That really sounds like
Jamie-
more of a Peter Criss kind of thing.
No, that's still definitely an Ace Frehley kind of thing.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
But yeah, Jamie ranked this the highest, so he gave this 22 points.
Guilty as charged. Like, I absolutely love the album. As you all know, Ace Frehley's the reason that I got into music really seriously, because Kiss made me want to play guitar. So my whole musical journey starts there. So Ace's solo album, being the best of the four, naturally got the highest placement for me. Out of us, the only track that I'm not really that bothered about is the instrumental Fractured Mirror. It still sounds great. It'd be amazing on a Boston record.
Oh, you mean the best song on the album? Well, best composition on the album?
It's a damn good song.
It's still a good song, but I would rather have, a Rocket Ride on there or something of that ilk, because he clearly has it in his arsenal.
That's the shot of cayenne pepper in this bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah, it's just a great album, isn't it? As I've said before, I'd have loved to have been in the room the first time Paul Stanley heard it.
Yeah, I mean, according to Behind the Mask, he said, wow, this sounds like a cool Kiss album. Good job, Ace. And gave him a pat on the back and totally wasn't threatened by it.
And as he went into the studio to record Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart.
Well, Paul probably thought, well, I'm the only one who's going to have a hit off these solo albums. And then New York Groove came in and was the only hit. Like, this had to troll the other members so much. And this led to a brand new dynamic in the band, where the following album, Ace had more songs on it than Gene did.
Gene, yeah.
And, then you get to the point where, there's 3 Ace songs per album for the next couple albums. Like,
And-
this...
Yeah, and what a gift that was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was Ace Frehley, before that, like, had only sung 2 songs with the band. No one knew what to expect. And he just had all this pent-up creative energy and hit a home run. Like, this is a huge success.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I said my main point about it, which was the young, dumb fuck energy thing about it. But it also, like the album, the lyrics are really bad and stupid, and it rocks really hard. But, like, it honestly got me thinking, like, how much of our lives is dictated by the fact that some words rhyme? And, like, so then people write songs that have all these words that rhyme, and you're like, then you form all these emotional connections to, like, words that just happen to rhyme. Like dance and romance happen to rhyme. So then, like, that becomes a thing that, like, oh, if you want to fall in love with somebody, you got to dance with them. It's like, all of these things are true. And then Ace bumbles along in his fucking steamroller of, like, just like his Scrabble deck that only has, like, 3-letter words in it. Just kind of blows that whole notion up. It's like,
I love the contention that, like, the entire reason that dancing is a common part of courtship throughout all of human history is just that it happens to rhyme with romance in English.
it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, there's other stuff. Like, that was just the one that came to mind. But, like, there are other things that it's like, these things just happen to rhyme, and now everybody talks about them all the time in these same ways. But then Ace is he's got one of those 5th grade vocabularies.
I think murder ballads have the popularity that they do just because it so happens that the words wife and knife rhyme.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably responsible for most domestic violence. We should have just come up with a word for blades that doesn't rhyme with a word for spouses.
Yeah.
Blades.
Blades. Yeah, how about
Yeah.
blades?
That's true.
Blades, maids.
Oh,
wait, hold on.
The wives will remain safe, but the maids are screwed.
It's okay. The working class is always taken care of in this country. I hear the comments on Ace Frehley before we move on.
Yeah, I mean, Anton Fig as a drummer, the drumming on this album is simply exquisite. Anton Fig knocks it out of the park. Eddie Kramer, the sonics that Eddie Kramer managed to get in that album, just from a pure sonic perspective, it's sonically very beautiful.
I really should finish
Like
this
those
episode.
guitar tones. Yeah, it's just
It's also blue. The Sonics on this blue
Yeah.
album are really great.
Speeding back to my baby.
What?
yeah, gotta go fast. Back to the baby.
What? Say it again slower and faster. Actually.
But I'll never forget the first time I heard it. This was like I was like 7 or 8, and I thought that all the guys played on each other's solo albums. Paul, Ace, Gene, and Peter each played on everyone's solo albums.
They were like all still friends or something.
Exactly, like they were in a. But I'll never forget hearing those Rip It Out drum solos for the first time, thinking, oh boy, I haven't heard Peter do anything like that before. Like, oh, he's amazing. And then, nope, it was someone else. It's Anton Fig.
If I remember rightly, Ace plays bass on quite a few tracks on there as well, doesn't he? The bass playing's really, really, really good on the record too.
It's
And
He
he
really
co-
is the ace of bass.
Yeah. He also co-wrote.
Including all the weird Nazi things.
Oh yeah. Well.
Oh dear.
Yeah. That escalated fast, didn't it? Doesn't his wife at the time have a couple of co-writes as well? I think she co-wrote Freedom Back to My Baby.
Back to My Baby, yeah.
Yeah.
And does backing vocals. And I think one of the impressive things about Ace on this album is that he plays bass like a bassist and not like a guitarist just playing bass. Because we all know those are two very different things. Like he's actually playing good, interesting bass parts. And once again, credit to Ace Frehley. He's not guitared. Like he is actually playing to the strength of the song and not just using the song as a vehicle to show off how good he is at guitar.
Let me
He
go
is
ahead and shred a pentatonic on this bass.
Yeah, but he everything is for the sake of having strong songs with strong delivery, and I think it completely works and shows his versatility as a musician.
But not as a lyric writer.
No, not as a
Actually,
lyric writer.
it does show his versatility as a lyric writer in that.
He
Again,
doesn't have much of it.
There's a great moment in History Science Theater, that podcast, where they're talking about Ace as a lyricist, and one of the hosts on that says that he likes to imagine Ace sitting in a corner with a legal pad, and he's kind of crouched over it, and he's thinking really hard, and his tongue is kind of out the side of his mouth like that, and I'd like to say a word or two about the women we all seem to knew. Crosses it out, no, and yeah, go on. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to me that Victor calls this album full of young, dumb fuck energy, like kind of making fun of it. And me, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of what it was. Okay, see, yeah, because for me,
definitely good.
For me, I got it. I was like in middle school. I was pretty young. It was like maybe my second or third Kiss album, and it was maybe like my fifth just like album overall. I mean, it was the first 10. I mean, it was one of the first like musical things I listened to like front to back. And being a young guy, like I remember there's a line in Snowblind, and I thought, being in school, like we all had assigned seating, and teachers took that very seriously. And at the time, I didn't understand why, because I'm like, well, we're still in the class. But as an adult now who hates kids, I kind of get it, because I'm like, just sit in the same freaking place so I know who you are. But like, some of them took that shit really seriously and like would freak out if anyone dare like move around at all. So there's this line in Snowblind where he sings, "Move it around to get in trouble." And I literally thought the lyric was about a kid in class just switching seats haphazardly throughout class just to piss his teacher off and see what she would do about it. Like, that's literally what I thought it meant. And I don't know when I realized that's not what it meant. It was probably like years later I put it on. I'm like, that's not what he was singing about. But that was just like my life at the time, was being in school. And then another one, super young dumb fuck energy. Quite literally, my friend Derek and I love to like make up just even stupider lyrics to Ozone. And I remember one of our classics was, "I'm the kind of schmuck who really likes to fuck," and we thought that was genius. We thought we were comedian experts.
I'm imagining young Michael Walsh in a study, smoking a pipe, with his journal, stroking his chin.
The flavor of
Writing
this
those
line
lyrics.
is quite my cup of tea.
I too am the kind of schmuck who enjoys fornication.
And population.
That does remind me, Snowblind. He says, Snowblind, I can't see a thing. Snowblind, I don't want to sing. And it's like, did you ever start? He's not
he's
not a good singer, folks.
Ace isn't the only one with lyrics like that, right? Because if you look at Going Blind back on Hotter Than Hell, the way the verse leads into the chorus, you're so young and so much different than I, can't, blah, 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 can't you see I'm going blind? 'Cause I think I'm going blind. And I know how it should be. It's,
Well, I mean, yeah, not to say that, no, rest assured, Kiss as a whole has a lot of really bad lyrics. But Aces, I think, as I said, maybe in a previous episode, it is impressive that in Platform Boots, you are able to limbo under the low bar that is set by General Kiss lyrics. And he fucking did it. But this album is great. Like, this was honestly one, when I went through the first time listening to all these albums, this was one I was kind of like, I almost don't want to listen to it again, because I think if I listen to it again, I'll be like, well, but this is stupid.
It lives in a very fragile place in your heart.
But I did listen to it again, and I was like, nope, this is still stupid and great.
I mean, many of Kiss albums are like cheesy 80s action movies where they're stupid and they're great. And they both feed each other. The greatness feeds the stupidity and vice versa. And one last thing about Ace as a vocalist, I think he falls into a certain school of a vocalist that I like to call a guitarist. Like Joe Walsh would also fall into this category. Just like, I'm not necessarily the best singer, but I'm really good at guitar, and you think I'm cool, so I can kind of get away with being just okay at best.
I don't know if I commented on that in this particular episode, but in that episode, I remember bringing that up, that like he's a fine vocalist. He can do what needs to be done. It's just he's not very good at pushing himself to do that when he's writing his own vocal melodies. When he's covering a Rolling Stone song or something, he can pull it off and it sounds great and it's got some real energy and edge to it. But when he's just writing his own parts, it's just like, all right, well, this is a singing in his own mid-range and not an interesting melody.
So here's a question for you: is who's better at doing cover songs, Ace Frehley or Billy Corgan?
Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley.
Oh man, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting some sort of mental backflips to justify Billy Corgan's cover of Landslide being better than New York Groove in 2000.
No, I'm not going to try to justify that in 2020. Now,
I don't think I've heard that. That sounds
James Eha,
interesting.
on the other hand, James Eha with Billy Corgan doing the production, amazing.
It's fair.
Ooh.
I just want more A Night Like This is.
So, any other comments? Go ahead.
I want more bands like A Kisses.
So like a very Italian version of them? I'm a band that like a kiss.
A baby, get your grandma out of here.
Music from the babushka.
Go one time again.
Oh, is that the Kiss and Kate Bush?
Yeah.
Wait, isn't babushka Russian?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I was really.
But if you
I
say
thought we were
with
just doing the whole ethnic. Palette.
everybody knows that Italian is just English with the funny accent.
It's true.
I'm now going down this rabbit hole in my head of imagining Ace Frehley singing Kate Bush's Babushka, which do any of you guys know that song?
Oh, yes.
Wait, Kate Bush has a song called Babushka?
Babushka, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know why I'm acting surprised by that. Like I know
It's-
any Kate Bush song.
It's one of Kate Bush's like most famous songs.
Yeah,
Like all-
I don't.
like all
I've heard the name
Americans.
Kate Bush.
I've heard the name Kate Bush. What is America? What
Yeah.
are Americans?
Like all
It's not
Americans,
as
we
huge
know.
out here.
Oh, sorry.
Americans are people who don't listen to Kate
Jesus.
Bush and vote for Donald Trump. That's what America is.
I mean,
I've heard of Kate Bush.
is Kate Bush is she a British artist?
Yeah.
She is.
See, I'm
yeah,
busy.
she's
I'm busy with
superb.
better British artists like Status Quo. So yeah.
I think the trick is, Jamie, we all know the one Kate Bush song. We all know
Right, yeah.
Wuthering Heights, and if you told us she wrote other songs, our minds are blown.
She
Oh,
did that
incredible.
song at the end of the Golden Compass.
Right, so
Was it
folks,
Wuthering Heights?
For all of your homework, like as a collective homework, apart from Gavin, I would like you to all go and listen to the Hounds of Love album after this episode,
Yeah.
because that's like her most poppy album, so it's like really accessible. Then go back and realize that everything that she ever did is amazing.
Can you imagine? I want Ace Frehley doing a bunch of Kate Bush covers.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
I want him doing.
Origins Volume 3 is just Kate Bush covers.
I mean, to be honest, I
Live.
can really see Ace doing like a cover of The Dreamin' or something like that.
Bang another cat. Oh, that would be amazing.
Ace
I
covering,
can't do an Ace Frehley impression, but
The man
trying
with
to
the
do
child
the
in his eyes.
Australian
Oh, the man with the child inside would be superb. Yeah,
or Wow.
that. Yeah,
Wow.
Just for a quick idea, what
There
is a
goes a
Kate
tenor.
Bush? Is she a Carole King? Is she a Carly Simon? Is she a Cyndi Lauper? Is she?
So
She's a-
Kate Bush has just the most incredible kind of theatric and
She's a Mariah Carey.
She's a Mariah Carey. Okay.
That's,
Well,
I would say
she's not a Mariah Carey in terms of she does pop R&B. She's like, in terms of her vocal range,
Right.
She's
She's
a
like
Mariah
a-
Carey.
She's like a
Soul?
dramatic Mariah Carey rather than being
Yeah.
like a fun poppy Mariah Carey.
Alright,
But her music
here's what I'm
isn't a
saying.
million
Imagine-
miles away from Peter Gabriel.
like
Oh,
like
yeah.
Jim Steinman meets Peter Gabriel, but with a much more operatic soprano kind of vocal.
Yeah, but is she the kind of guy who likes getting high?
Feeling high and dry.
Isn't that a Dictator's song?
You made this joke on the Ace Frehley 78 episode we did.
I don't get it.
I bet I did. I'm sorry I like bands that eventually became Manowar.
There's nothing to apologize for that.
I'm sorry I like them more than Ace Frehley.
I mean,
Also,
that's-
Gavin, for working on an Ace Frehley impression, I would recommend working on a Gilbert Gottfried impression and trying to sing during it.
I.
Now I'm just picturing Gilbert Gottfried singing Wuthering Heights.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or,
the winding Misty Moore, we run.
Or Mother
Wow, that's
stands
a
for
terrible
comfort.
Gilbert Gottfried. I apologize.
For a while, I was going to, with a friend of mine in Boston, record us doing. We were going to record us doing Wuthering Heights under the name Bros Bushing Out. That never came to pass.
See, I haven't eaten yet today, so I just started getting really hungry. I was thinking, what if there was like a restaurant with like a really stacked burger that was just like slathered in a sauce, and it was a really tall burger? They could call it the Smothering Heights.
Ooh.
The Smothering Heights burger.
Or you just
go
serve
ahead.
like a cheese dipped burrito on its end.
Sure.
Smothering Heights burrito.
That's how I literally haven't eaten. I'm like, well, I have nothing in the house right now. That I'm like, do I just eat a slice of cheese? I could do that, but I'm just getting hungry. So.
Well, you know about the to bring it back to Kiss. You know, Kate Bush and Kiss had they had a little collaboration that they started working on, but it
Do
never.
you tell?
That would be Hounds of Love Gun. Yeah, and then there's another one here. There's another one here.
You scratch behind the ears of my Hounds of Love gun.
Yeah, I'll think of more as we go.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Lipstick Panel, hosted by Lipstick Generation. Lipstick Generation's music can be found on all major streaming platforms and at lipstickgeneration.com. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your ranking of the subject in the comments down below. Feel free to leave us an episode suggestion also. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, please leave a review and tell a friend about our show. Thanks and rock on.